What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. Today, my guest is a real American badass motherfucker, right?
I love it.
I cannot wait to introduce this next guest to you guys. This dude is somebody who you've probably seen, whether it's on the news or on social media. It's hard to miss him because he's just one of those tall American studs that's just walking around with his big old cowboy hat everywhere. It's tough to miss. Sheriff Mark Lamb. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man. I got to take you with me everywhere. That was awesome.
I can do that. That's no problem. All right, let me just give you guys an idea. If you're living under a rock, you have no idea who this guy is, you're about to. Sheriff Mark Lamb was elected as the 24th sheriff of Pinal County on January 1st, 2017. I can't wait for you guys to hear more of this story. This is crazy. Sheriff Lamb oversees a county the size of Connecticut, manages more than 600 employees with the sheriff's office, and a budget of over $50 million. If you think it's hard to run a business with over 600 employees and $50 million, try running a business where you're running that many employees in the most dangerous aspect of the world. I mean, I can't wait to just dive into this. As a constitutional conservative, Sheriff Lamb is a strong supporter of our Second Amendment. Thank the Lord. Rights and enforcement of all of our laws, including fighting human and drug trafficking at our southern border. Sheriff Lamb is determined to protect the rights and freedoms of the people whom he serves. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, brother.
Foremost. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Your son's in the military.
Yes,
that's
sir.
correct?
Yep. He gets out in October. He's about done, but he's been 5 years, the 82nd Airborne.
What a stud. Thank you. Thank him for his service. You know, I'll hopefully get to meet him, but number one, man, you've done some incredible things, right? And I can't wait for everyone to hear this, you know, like how you got here, but it's like, what led you to this point? I mean, you are fighting a fight that is not popular right now.
No.
That is dangerous. Let's be as upfront about it as we can. This is a dangerous mission you've taken on.
Absolutely.
Right? You carry a large burden right now, and you've shouldered that burden to spread a message all across the country. You're about to go on another news thing you just told me later today.
Yeah.
So what's your story, man? Like, how'd you get to this point?
A long road. It's been a long road.
Let's break it down, man.
You know, I came off, I'm LDS. You know, I served my mission.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm LDS.
Okay,
yeah.
I did not know that.
I served in Argentina.
Did you really?
Born
Entonces podemos hacerlo en español si quiere.
Exactamente, el castellano, che.
I love it. I didn't know that.
So I grew up in Hawaii, born and raised in Hawaii. Then we moved to the Philippines. My dad was a graduate of Thunderbird Business College, which, if you know, it's a very prestigious international business school in Arizona.
Wow.
So he went there, always loved international stuff. Things that weren't going well after the Philippines. So we moved back to Arizona. I went to high school in Arizona, but during that time we moved to Panama. Then I went on my mission to Argentina.
Wow.
And then I came back home and, you know, I followed in my dad's footsteps. I did a lot of my own businesses.
Yeah.
Actually was a herdsman on a dairy in Payson for a while. Right. And I was 33 years old when I finally, I had no inkling of being a cop. Never had thought about it, didn't dream about it as a kid.
Yeah.
Nobody in my family was a cop. Nobody in my wife's family was a cop.
Yeah.
And one of my neighbors said, "Hey, you want to do a ride along?"
Yeah.
And I was like, screw it. Let's, you know, like I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So went one night. It was a graveyard shift. I remember one of the calls we went on was a guy called because he found a 20-year-old with his 14-year-old daughter.
Oh.
And got into a little fist fight. They ran out the back. And if you've ever been to a reservation, like there's
this is on a reservation.
It's on the reservation.
Oh, shit.
So there's a house and there'll be like desert behind it. And then you might have an abandoned travel trailer. So we're out there in the desert and I'm armed with a flashlight and courage, which I can't believe they let me out of the car.
Right.
But I go out there and I'm walking around and I look into this old abandoned travel trailer, and amongst all this debris and trash and clothes, I see what I think is a quarter size of skin. And I'm like, that dude's underneath that pile. So I call him over. I'm like,
shit.
The guy's right in here.
Yeah.
They go barging in there. Boom. Sure enough, he's in there. They drag him out, tase him. That was it, man. I was like, I was hooked.
You're hooked.
I went home that morning. I told my wife, I woke her up.
Yeah.
Got home at like 6 a.m. I woke her up and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a cop." And I did. 6 months later, I was in the academy. And on my road to that. How I got to be the sheriff is we start going through. I was a cop. I'd been a cop for about 5-6 years. I was a gang and drug detective, and didn't like the direction of the country. It was under President Obama, and I didn't like what it was doing. I didn't like how law enforcement was being portrayed, and the rule of law was deteriorating.
Yeah, which is happening now.
It's happening again now.
That's right.
And so I said, you know what? I'm going to run for sheriff.
Because that's what people understand is running for sheriff is an elected position.
It's a whole thing.
It's not. It's like because I actually had that misunderstanding. I thought it was just another, being a cop. No. Being the sheriff is an elected position, similar to like the mayor or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I run on the presidential cycle. It's weird to see your name on the same ballot as like the president.
Trump.
You know, exactly.
That's great. Yeah.
And so I decided to run, and people thought I was crazy. I knew nothing about it.
Right.
But I knew marketing. I had marketed my own businesses. And so I knew nothing about politics. So what I did was I would go meet with people and they'd say, well, you need to do this and this and this. And I'd be like, okay, that's probably what my opponent's going to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use marketing concepts and I'm going to achieve the same thing, but if not better. And I ended up beating my guy 64 to 36% in the, and they thought that they were going to beat me. I was the underdog, but it was just about marketing. I knew nothing about anything else.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up being the sheriff. I feel like we got a stay of execution for the first 4 years. I mean, when I was going to be the sheriff, I felt this. I told my wife, I said, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be hard. I thought Hillary Clinton would be the president, and I thought they were going to challenge our freedoms, our Constitution, everything.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I was like, this is going to be hard, honey. Are you ready? And then we got the stay of execution. I remember the morning that they announced Trump won, that like 3 a.m. I was just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the first 4 years, you know, there wasn't challenges, but it allowed me to get my feet underneath.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was like a baby deer on ice when I first got out there.
I'm sure.
You know, that get 4 years. Now we're into this whole nonsense of the world, you know, is going mad. And people, there's 2020 did a good thing. COVID did something good. It exposed the lack of leadership in this country and the lack of courage in this country. And so I find myself in a place now where I'm having to fight for the things that I love and believe in. And that's where we're at.
So when did things really take off for you on a national level? Because there's one thing to, win the election, to be a sheriff in the, your area. But when did things take off on a national level? Because you're known all across this country at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Now, not every sheriff is known all across this country.
That's true.
So how did things take off for you?
So right when I took office, my predecessor was really good about being in the media. And then next door, we had Sheriff Joe Arpaio, the most famous sheriff, the toughest sheriff in America. And so he lost his race, and my predecessor tried to run for Congress. So it left a void of somebody to be on the media for the local news to talk to.
Right.
So by default, I became the person they wanted to talk to. That didn't last long before they burnt me, and I learned my lesson. You know, but I became that guy in the local media. But not long after, they came and asked me if I wanted to do live PD. And I was like, man, I don't even freaking know what I'm doing yet.
Yeah, right.
Like, give me a chance to get my feet underneath me. And so 6 months into it, I said, hey, call those guys back up and see if they're still interested in doing it. Because I'm a believer in you market your agency, you market everything about, Pinal County. And so we called them back and they're like, heck yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, we started the conversation on a Monday. By Friday, they were in the car filming with us already. That's how quickly it happened.
Jeez.
At the same time, 60 Days In came. So when we started filming 60 Days In, both A&E shows, but where most people know me now is not for live PD anymore. It's for 60 Days In because during COVID, they put 60 Days In on Netflix. And all of a sudden it was in the top 10 and everybody's like, hey, you're the guy from Netflix. I probably had that 3 times on this last travel run I had.
Oh, geez.
People just come up to me and be like, you look really familiar. Are you the guy from Netflix or 60 Days In? So that's kind of what started it, and then all that stuff precipitates like they want to interview you, and then if you're a plain speaker, if you speak truth and you can portray, you can get your message across, they want you even more. Right. And so that's kind of how it's been. It's just been live PD, 60 Days In. I did a lip sync video back when cops were doing those. They had like 14 million views.
Oh, jeez.
But honestly, we believe, my wife and I, we're just regular people trying to do great things. We believe in just walking through open doors. So I don't take credit for it. I'm where I'm supposed to be because somebody's put me there. Whatever you believe in, for me, it's God. You know, we believe that God has something in store for every one of us. The question is, are you going to follow that path? Are you going to walk through those open doors? Or are you going to be too scared?
Yeah. Damn straight. Oh, geez, so much to unpack here. I love it. Can I actually ask you one thing before I really dive into this? When you say they burned you, talking about the media, what do you mean by that?
So, look, any chance they get to tear, they'll love to build you up, only to tear you back down.
That's right.
That's the American way.
That's right. Yeah.
Like I'm an MMA guy, right? I love MMA.
Right.
And you remember Ronda Rousey? Ronda Rousey was just boom. Everybody loved her. She was the best.
Yep.
And then she lost.
Yeah.
And then she was that fat bitch that, then it was like everybody changed.
Right.
On her.
Yeah.
And she never changed.
Right.
We just, in America, we love to build our heroes up, but then we love to tear them down. And so once they get you in that place, now they look to tear you down, especially if your voice is contrary to what theirs is.
Absolutely.
And so as President Trump became more polarizing, they then viewed me as one of those guys.
Yeah.
And so like my son hit a guy on a bike, was under the influence of some drugs. And my son's currently, we'll talk about that if you want, my son's currently in my own jail. But this was something they hammered me on it.
Oh, wow.
So now I don't do interviews with media yet. And if I do, I have a camera sitting there right there and I interview the whole thing. And I put the interview up so that they can't take bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
And what I do is I say, hey, you want to know what the sheriff's statement is? Go to Facebook and you'll find out.
Yeah.
Every rumor they heard, they ran with.
Right.
And so honestly, I was like, screw those guys.
Yeah.
I don't owe the media anything.
That's
my
right.
job is to the people of my county.
That's right.
I owe them nothing. So that's how I treat them now.
Yeah. I mean, I truly believe obviously I believe, our media is corrupt. There's no question. Like anyone who denies
I've been
that,
the victim of it. I can tell you
that's right.
They're corrupt.
But
they lie.
Yeah. But you know what? What's fascinating about it is we want to blame the media. This is super because I don't know if you've seen what's happened to me with me building this alpha business. I could go into you with that and like what the label's been slapped on me all across this country. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And what I realized really quick is we want to blame the media, and what we want to do is want to blame some person at the top who's pulling all the strings.
Right.
But you know what actually is the problem? It's not the person at the top. Everyone says this, and I at my core, I know this. Everyone wants to blame this big bad, person at the top pulling the strings for, we want to call Illuminati or whatever it is, right? You know what the problem is? It's us. Because in marketing, this as a marketer, and in media, if you want to put out a message, you'll get a 80% higher view rate if it's a negative message than a positive message. So in media, if you're running a media business and you're not getting any views, what you realize that the American public, what we actually want to consume is negativity.
Yeah. We want that scandal.
The scandal, the drama. And you know what? If they don't get views, they have to create scandals, and there's nothing stopping them from doing that.
That's an excellent point.
Except for maybe just firing the journalist who did it, and then they have another one lined up. There's nothing stopping them from running whatever story they want, because you know what they get? 100 million views.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Oh, they might have to redact it, but it doesn't matter. Damage is done. And with that comes now the court of public opinion. And that's the problem, is there's no more justice to be served, guilty, or innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty in the public eye because of what's been ran, and they will believe what they want to believe. It's crazy.
And you know how I found to transcend that is my wife has the best saying. She goes, we're going to bury these people in an avalanche of love and light. And so what we do is we push forward with our message. They're barking dogs in a yard.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever spend time listening to some dog barking at me as I'm walking down the Golden Street?
Yeah.
They're just barking dogs.
Yeah.
And so we started just paying them no mind. And we just focused on what our job was, serving the people, being out there, doing good things, challenging ourselves, trying to be better in our own way.
Right.
And with that comes the negativity and the hate. But at the same time, your people start to defend you.
Yeah.
Like, I never have to say anything on a social media post. My people come to my defense and they're like, no, man, that's not true. The sheriff is this and this and this. And so now the media is very careful because they know it only builds me more.
Yeah.
That they have struggled to find that negativity to stick to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it doesn't in some way, but the majority of the people are like, no, man, We like that guy.
That's right.
And so we just focus on our mission, what we're doing,
Yeah.
what we want to achieve. And then we leave the rest up to fate or whatever. But yeah, like who is it? Trump says just make sure they spell your name right. That's it, right?
I love that. Can I now? Let me. If this is too uncomfortable, I want to ask you this. This is like really fascinating to me, but also, you know, I think important. What did it feel like, or take me through that moment of how it felt when you had to go through that? Because number one, it's not just something that happens to you as a father, which I know is hard enough.
Yeah.
The fact that it was also being spread, you know, and that they're using it against you in a public eye, right? And you know, I know how I felt when things like that happened, but not nearly to the extent of what you just described. Can you walk me through those feelings, what you went through there?
You know, luckily I'd been conditioned for a couple years. It happened a couple years into me being the sheriff.
Okay.
So the first couple years were hard because anytime you read something negative,
Yeah.
it would just bear, like I would take it to heart.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Right.
Like for 2 weeks. You know, you'd put your game face on every day, but then you'd come home and you'd be despondent at your home.
That's right, yeah.
And with your family. And so one day I just decided I wasn't going to let these people rob my family of me anymore. It would be no different than I wouldn't let anybody walk in my house and steal stuff from my house.
Right.
Or do something to my family. And so what I realized was they were hurting my family by the way I responded to some of their hateful things.
Yes.
And so I had kind of been conditioned to it already.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't care anymore. And I realized first thing you need to know about the haters, it's not you, it's them. Ooh. They're miserable with their own lives.
Amen.
They're underachieving. They're not. And so what do? They try to go after somebody who is achieving, who's challenging themselves, who's trying to be better. That's what they want to do, is they want to tear at you to make themselves feel better for their inability to challenge themselves.
Yes.
So first thing about haters, it's not you, it's them.
Oh,
and once I started to accept that, it made it easier. Now, fast forward to where my son hits this guy on the bike. My son was having some challenges, and we were trying to help him. And he was at our house. We said, hey, you cannot drive our cars. So this was going on for weeks.
Yeah.
And one day we went to do a charity event, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. And we get a call from him. He say, hey, I just hit this guy on a bike. So we hurried home. It was about a mile from our house at the most. And he was going to Taco Bell, and a guy came out on a bike, and he hit the guy on the bike. He had marijuana in his system, and he had something else. And the media just trashed me. But the hardest part was showing up on scene and walking up to your son, and I looked to make sure the other guy was okay. And then I walked back to my son. I'd looked my son in the eye, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't stay here with you. You're on your own. I said, if I stay here, they're going to accuse me of intervening and doing something that I shouldn't do. I said, you're on your own. And it was hard to walk and get in your truck and you look and there's 7 cops standing around him. And I know that he's like a baby lamb amongst a circle of wolves. He was done. Like I knew this. I didn't even get a chance to tell him what he should and shouldn't do or say. And so I went home and just had to hope for the best. And really, we're really those type of people that say what's going to happen in life is supposed to happen. I'll talk about it later, but one of the things I believe in is you surrender the outcome. And so we had to surrender the outcome. It was out of my control. And so, you know, by the time he actually went to jail, he was doing good. He had a kid. He's started
getting his life back on track.
Oh, he was doing great. Hadn't used drugs for well over a year. He had to get drug tested all the time, so we know it. Hadn't been using any drugs. Had a job, and then bam, the justice system comes and hits you clubs you over the head, and he had to go serve 6 months. He's currently 2.5 months into a 6-month sentence in my jail.
Oh, geez.
Which is hard too, because now if I would have mistreat those inmates in my jail, what would they do to my boy? And so, it was hard. I got one guy in the media who constantly bashes me and them for it. But you know what? It gets no traction because the average person is like, leave the guy alone. Like, first of all, it was this kid, not him. And second of all, don't drag family into it. Which to me is, they broke the rule. They broke the code. I don't do it to bad guys. You don't go after their families. And you don't go, and the media shouldn't go after my family. You got an issue with me, take it up with me, but don't go after my family.
Yeah, at this point, people are they're doing the nastiest things.
They break all the rules.
There's no rules anymore for them. It's just public
no code.
Use. No code. That's right. How's he doing, by the way?
Oh, thank you for asking. He's doing good.
He's doing good.
Look, he's realizing he's learning some hard lessons in life.
I'm sure.
But I told him, I said, journal everything that's happening.
Amen. Yeah.
Because when you come out, we're going to write a book.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, because my wife's book is The Sheriff's Wife.
Yeah.
Mine is American Sheriff. His will be The Sheriff's Son, an inside look at my dad's jail. So I told him, I said, look, he went cold turkey off fentanyl.
Wow.
Nobody does that.
No, yeah.
So like fentanyl, there are things that he's done, and there's a real story he can tell. Like you said, everybody's got their story.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a story he can tell, and so I'm going to try to help him tell that story.
I mean, you and me just had this conversation before we even turned on the cameras, right? About how many great men and women we have met who have had that exact same thing. Seriously, like how many people have been on this podcast that I'm sitting here interviewing, I'm like, you did what? Like you accomplished what? And then we're talking about their story about literally them coming out of prison after 5 years. You know, I can list them, Travis Ritchie, Sean Michael Crane, Peter Mayerhofer, like all these incredible people. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you know any of them.
I know Peter.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And what they're pushing for and the message they're getting out there. But then, like we know other people, I won't name names, but big names that you and me both know, right? That are just salt of the earth, real people who are literally changing people's lives right now.
Yeah.
Millions of lives are changing their lives. And they're putting out that message. And so when I hear that, with your son, I'm excited for what he's going to do.
Me too.
I'm excited for what he's going to accomplish because what a great story it's going to be. What a great story it's going to be that he's going to be able to talk about how he conquered this, went through what you've experienced. That is not a small thing. It's not that he just had to go to jail, which is one thing. It's that he also had to put up with the scrutiny that you guys experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what a furnace of just building the diamond, if you so to speak, the pressure, right?
Oh,
and what
absolutely.
that can produce, So I hope I pray for him. I hope he's okay, and sounds like he's doing great. And I can't wait to see what he does.
I know, me too. And I appreciate that because he's a good kid.
Yeah,
and he's learning some life lessons. And
dude.
I told him, I said, the average person can't handle this.
Yeah.
The fact that you're going through this means that you're stronger than them.
Yeah.
I got my shirt on right now. I'll tell you, it kind of goes to. It's called the 8-Man Strong.
He's the Ariat shirt's coming off. Scars.
And the reason why I love this shirt is, and I wear it all the time, is because we all have scars. Physical, emotional, whatever they are.
As a matter of fact, if you don't have scars, I question you.
Right.
Like that means you've been sitting on a pill your whole fucking life.
That's right. But the thing about scars is there are a way of telling everybody that whatever tried to take you out in life wasn't strong enough.
Ooh, I like that. I need one of those shirts now.
I know,
I like
right?
that a lot.
I rock it all the time.
I like that a lot.
Because it reminds me, the scars that I have, you couldn't kill me.
Yeah.
You couldn't take me out. And my son's learning that now. And that's why I think guys like Peter and all these other guys, they've been kicked in the face hard by life over and over again.
Right, yeah.
And you know what they realize? I'm still standing.
Yeah.
And so I may as well keep pushing forward and make something of this life after it. And so I think if he does it right, he's going to really be able to not only help his own life, but he's going to be able to touch a lot of other lives.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
I'm anxious to see what he does with it as well.
You know what's funny? You're talking about this. So I've been pretty hated my whole life, right? I really felt that way. My nickname growing up was the Fat Bull. I'm not, I don't know if you know anything about that. That my nickname was on the Fat Bull, right? And I used to ask myself this question all the time: is why do people hate me? Why? And I didn't, dude, it's tough, man, because you see the hate happen. I feel like I've experienced hate my whole life, and it just gets worse. Yeah. The harder I push,
new levels bring on new devils.
Hey man, I like these sayings, man. New levels bring on new devils, man. And I'm just over and over again. I keep looking at what's happening, especially with the business and I'm like, all of a sudden I am a racist to people. And I'm like, why? I'm a misogynistic piece of shit, and all this stuff. I'm like, well, okay, you know what? That's what I signed up for. I knew it was going to happen. And I literally am waiting for it. And even still, when it comes, I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like,
it's hard.
It's hard. And I look at it, I'm like, and I keep asking myself the question, why do people hate me? And what you said is so true, is they don't hate me. They hate the fact that they're a fucking loser and they're not doing anything about it,
That's right.
It's the truth is that message, be greater but nothing, is your greatness will always shine a light on their weakness. you know, because you're a human being just like I am. And as a human being, we all have the same thing inside of us, that same eternal engine that can make whatever we want to have happen. The only difference is you had the courage to act on it and they didn't.
That's right.
And they'll always know it.
Nobody that's doing better than you is ever going to critique you.
Amen.
It's always the people that are doing worse.
That's right.
They come in here, they walk in here, they'll to your face, they'll be like, this is freaking awesome. And then they'll walk out and you'll be like, that guy doesn't deserve that.
That's right.
You know?
Oh, I can tell you
I
something
love
about that one.
I love Aristotle's quote. The only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, be nothing.
Ooh.
And that's
yes.
That's how I live by. Like if
write that one down.
If you're being criticized, that means you're doing something.
Yeah.
You're saying something. You're being something.
Oh.
And the one thing I have no compromise with evil. I don't. Like that's where I draw the line in the sand. And for me, 2020 made it easy.
Yeah.
That line in the sand is very distinct for me.
Pretty
like people are like, is this hard for you? I'm like, no, it's actually really easy because I know the difference between right and wrong. And you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I will have no compromise with evil.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to do something about it. I'm willing to say something about it. And I'll be something about it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great pivot to the next thing I really want to talk to you about, which is something you talk about on a constant basis. So I know you're probably sick of this, right? The border.
Ugh.
You want to talk about good and evil.
Absolutely.
You know, you also want to talk about some of the most gray area you're ever going to experience. Because I told you this. I was at the border. I was there for 11 months, right? I'm like paying, I'm speaking Spanish. I'm literally like I'm riding my bicycle along the fence in the Rio Grande, I'm throwing rocks into Mexico. And I'm like, that's how it is. I'm literally at the border. And I would constantly be all day long, as a missionary, I was meeting with families, talking to them about, Jesus Christ, right? And when you're having those conversations, you end up hearing some of the most tragic stories you can even imagine. And I'm hearing these stories from these families, and I'm seeing, families come in and out, these families have a house there, and then people are staying with them who had just crossed, and I'm not like, I'm here to, talk about Jesus Christ to anyone. Right. And then I'm hearing these stories and I'm hearing what they go through to get here. But then at the same time, I would also meet the other ones who came over here, and I can't believe that this human being just came into America. And the good and the bad and what's coming across, it's like what's happening at the border is there are good people who just want to be here because they want to enjoy the freedom. But then there also comes with that some of the most evil people can't even imagine. You want to talk about evil? Go talk to Tim Ballard about what's happening at the border and sex trafficking. Because we do a lot of stuff with him, and we donate to Operation on the Railroad because it's some of the most evil stuff you can imagine. And the border is a big cause of it. It's one of the number one causes of it.
It is the biggest problem for America right now.
And we're not talking about it enough.
And all your listeners out there, this is not about immigration. This is about human trafficking and drug trafficking into America.
Right.
Punto.
Yes. Punto.
That's it. I was on the phone because it shouldn't matter whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. If you care about human beings, you should absolutely care about border security because women are being raped.
Oh my gosh.
We had a woman we caught a few months ago, and she had a baggie full of pills. And so we're like 50 pills in this bag.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, what are these pills? Thinking maybe they were M30 fentanyl pills or something. And she's like, well, when I was going to cross the border, I knew I'd get raped multiple times.
Yes.
These are morning after pills. Like, where did we lose our way so bad as Americans, our compass so broken that under the name of politics, we will allow that to happen?
Yeah.
They use the children as pawns and rape the children and traffic the children.
Yes.
They extort the men. Then they carry dangerous drugs like methamphetamines and fentanyl into this country.
Yeah.
The leading cause of death right now amongst Americans is fentanyl. Over 100,000 Americans dying. Men, women, children, teenagers, grandparents, babies.
That's illegal, right?
It's illegal.
Wow. So wait, people die even when something's illegal, it still somehow gets out into the streets. We'll have to talk about the guns.
Don't get me. I got a whole plethora.
I was just going to say, we'll get to that one here in a sec.
I'm ready to go.
Anyways, keep going. Sorry.
So this is a big problem.
Yeah.
Like the human aspect of it is you're right.
Yeah.
But people get caught into the feelings of it. See, now what the left wants you to think of is all the people, the good people that are across the roads. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a congresswoman out of the state of Washington, and kudos to her for getting on the phone with us. And we're breaking it down, and you could tell that she's completely been indoctrinated by CNN and MSNBC.
Right, yeah. You
and
can
she
hear
says
the
a couple
language.
different things.
Yeah.
She says, well, what about all the unaccompanied minors? And I said, they're being separated not by us. The cartels have already separated them. They've purchased those children. They've purchased those children at the threat of violence to their family. They've stolen and kidnapped those children.
Yeah.
And then she goes, well, what about the good people? And I said to her, okay, I'm going to put this into perspective for you. Let's say I said to you, Congresswoman, I'm going to put 10 people in your house. 5 of them are good and 5 of them are bad. Are you okay with that?
And you don't know which ones they are.
And you don't know which ones they are. And she says, she paused. I go, you know why you can't answer that? Because you're not okay with it. Nor should you be okay with it.
Right.
I said, let me take it even a step further. What if 9 of them were good?
Yeah.
And 1 of them was bad, and that 1 was a sex offender or a sex trafficker? Are you still going to allow them in your house? She's like, well, no. She didn't answer again. And I said, you can't answer because the answer is no.
Yeah.
I said, my job as the sheriff is to stop that 1.
Yeah.
If I have to stop 9 good people to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I'm doing my job.
That's right.
And my job is to stop that 1 wolf from getting into the herd of to the sheep, even if it's with 10 other sheep.
Yeah, that's right.
My job is to stop those wolves.
Yeah.
And trust me, I will tell you, there are countless wolves crossing over. These are people that don't care for America.
No.
They will use it like a whatever and throw and cast it aside. There's terrorists. They've already caught 50 terrorists this year that are on the terrorist watch list. How many did we not catch that are on the terrorist watch list? How many did we not even have on the terrorist watch list?
Yeah.
I can assure you hundreds, if not thousands of terrorists have come into this country over the last 2 years.
That's the thing is they're all constantly grooming new ones who aren't on the list.
It is.
You know, like that's what people understand. It's like, okay, you know, we're catching a bunch of known terrorists. Well, what about the ones who are grooming that are the new terrorists?
Absolutely.
You know, because those are the scariest ones, the newest terrorists to do their first job that will also be their last job that we happen to don't know that they're a terrorist yet. Like, people don't think about that.
No, they don't.
There's thousands of them.
Oh, thousands of them. As a matter of fact, I was with Live PD one night, and I was followed this car, and I didn't have a reason to stop him, so I ended up just pulling up behind him when he pulled into the driveway. And basically, the house would be the first house you get to after crossing through the Indian reservation, through the desert, across the I-8 interstate. I mean, there's no other houses. The first house you would get to, right? I pull in behind him. The guy gets out of the car. He looks Hispanic, so I start speaking Spanish to him. She's looking at me like I'm speaking Chinese. Yeah. And so I said, do you speak Spanish? He's like, no. And I go, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Bahrain. And Bahrain is where all the terrorists are. So we passed his info on to the HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations. Yeah. And 2 weeks later, the guy flew back to Qatar. Why is that guy in the middle of the desert, first house you get to after crossing over the desert? Yeah. What is his reasoning for being there? Right. If you're telling me that you don't think that he has something to do with people coming across this border illegally, I say you're a fool. Yeah. Like there's, you know, the amount of people we've let in here, I don't know that this is going to be a problem for us for decades. I agree. For generations. It's already, I agree. Yeah. And people say, well, can you kick them all out with a new president? I said, you're letting in 7,000 to 10,000 people a day. Yeah. A day. Right. If you were able to kick out 100 people a day, I'd be like, hey, that's a good job. Right. So how do you make up for those numbers when you're letting 10,000 come in, but you can only get out a couple hundred a day, successfully get them back? Yeah. And the courts right now, most people don't realize to get somebody kicked out of this country before all of this influx was 5 to 8 years. Now you have all these other people that have come in here. Man, they're not even... The courts would be so jam-packed full of people, even if you could round them up. Yeah. So, and then the fentanyl. Yeah. I mean, they're poisoning the American people. That's right. Let me put it into perspective. If the cartel were to drop a bomb on Provo, Utah, and kill 100,000 people, we'd go to war. Well, we'd run roughshod over that country. We went to war for 20 years for what happened at 9/11, there was less than 4,000 Americans died that day.
That's right.
We went to war for 20 years. They're killing 100,000 people without any repercussions. Not only that, the government, our own government, and the mainstream media, and forgive my language, isn't doing jack shit about it.
Amen. Yeah.
That is the problem. That is why I get on the news and I shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Because like George Washington said in the circular letter of 1783, he said, with the conviction of the importance of the present crisis, silence in me would be a crime. And the other one is Abraham Lincoln. He says, to be silent when when they should protest makes cowards of men.
Ooh.
And so
write those down too. Those are great.
Unfortunately, there's too many cowards in this country and not enough men with courage to stand up for what they believe is right.
Dude.
Because it'll upset your comfortable life.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
And people don't want to fight the border thing because they don't want to get into that uncomfortable area. They don't want to do the uncomfortable work, which is the second thing I talk about.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't want to do the uncomfortable work. Well, the more you let in, the more uncomfortable this job is going to do to fix it.
Yeah.
So I won't go on and on.
No,
But these are fentanyl poisonings.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
These are the cartels poisoning Americans.
Yeah.
It is disingenuine to say that somebody's relative was overdosed.
Yeah.
A 15-year-old who takes a pill for the first time, that's a poisoning. A cocaine addict who's never taken fentanyl, who dies from cocaine that has fentanyl in it because the cartel put it in it, that's a poisoning. A baby who dies because the parents are using fentanyl pills, that's a poisoning. These are poisonings.
Yeah.
They're not overdoses.
That's right. Yeah.
So.
I mean, you're talking about like people coming over, like I was, because you're exactly right. Like, you know how it is when, in our, church, right? When someone wants to get baptized, you have to do an interview. You have to have those conversations. And as an 18-year-old, I was doing a lot of those interviews and I was having conversations with them about that. And, you're talking about women who talked about how many times they've been raped, talked about how many times, and they, as a part of getting over here, how many husbands would talk to me and cry because they knew their wife was getting raped and they couldn't do anything about it, or they chose not to do anything about it because at least they would get across the border.
Yeah.
They would literally just rape their wife and they knew it, but they're like, well, we got to get across. And then, this is what was so shocking to me is also the men. There were men who would get raped.
Oh, for sure.
And they would, sit there, like talking to me about it. And I'm an 18-year-old kid listening to this. I'm at the border of Mexico and I'm like, and I'm not talking about just a small handful of people. Almost every family I talked to had stories about this, or their family members who would be in dinner, and we're supposed to talk to them about then the gospel, and
that's a heavy bomb.
And so I've always believed in America. I've always been but after that I realized it was like you have to see it. I don't think people understand. You have to see it to believe it, because these stories don't do it justice. You have to look someone in their eye when they're telling you that and realize, like, this is real. This happened to you. And I know you as a human being, you're a good human being. This happened to you 6 months ago, and you just can't even understand it.
And then they call me a racist for wanting to protect the border.
That's right.
When in reality, their indifference to it and their unwillingness to enforce the border, they're complicit in this.
Yes.
They're the ones that did this.
That's right.
Like, our government is responsible for this.
Amen. Agreed.
And the people who support open borders are responsible for those rapes, those children being abused.
That's right.
The people dying from fentanyl, they carry the responsibility.
That's right.
I'm not the racist.
Right.
I love Latin countries.
Yeah.
I love them.
Hell, you speak Spanish. You were there for 2 years, man.
Absolutely. And I love those people. When I sit and talk to them, these are good people.
Yeah.
I run into them all the time.
Yeah.
You find any one of them that said I mistreated them because of their race.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
I'm doing my job protecting our borders and protecting those people.
Yeah.
How dare they question us?
They've never seen it. They've never seen it. Like I'm telling my wife I want to buy a house in Mexico. I love it so much, except I'm like, well, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe Cabo.
I don't think I can show this face in Mexico. I told my wife, this face ain't going to Mexico
I get
anytime
that.
soon
That's
because
right.
I won't be coming back.
Yeah. No, what you're saying is so crucial. This is literally my message to the world because people know me I talk about money. I talk about investments. I talk about building wealth. I talk about marketing. Like I've dedicated my life to learning these skill sets. Why? Because the one lesson I was taught at a very early age, and that was that lesson you see right outside is be great or be nothing. That was the lesson my dad taught me at the earliest age. And I owe my life to what he taught me. And at the end of the day, it comes down to my experience of realizing, I was getting bullied. I was having all this stuff happen. And I just saw people watching.
Yeah.
And the message is when you do nothing, you are nothing.
That's right.
When you have the responsibility to take action, your decision to not take action is a decision to allow it to happen. On your watch, this is happening, and it's because of you. If you could have done something about it and you choose not to do something about it, God will hold you accountable for that action one day. And we want to act like this happening at the border and we choose to do nothing about it. You will be held accountable for that one day. And if not, we hold you accountable. One day you will be held accountable.
Amen to that.
The only, and the truth is, and we're throwing out these awesome quotes here, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil in this world is for good men to do nothing.
That's right.
That's all that's necessary. Because the wolves aren't scared of the sheep. They're scared of the sheepdog who's going to tear their neck out if they try to touch the sheep.
That's right.
That's the only way. You have to have protectors. There has to be people. That's why I named my fucking company Alpha, because I knew people would hate it. But I'm like, you know what Alpha means? Alpha means being a protector, a provider, doing what's necessary to stand up to the wolves. And you know what that means? You might have to make a lot of money because these charities like Operation Underground Railroad, they need money.
That's right.
You need to have influence and power in order to make a difference, not just sitting on your couch tweeting. You got to stand up and become somebody. Put your face out there so you have a massive brand so that people listen to you, right? You have to have influence in this world in order to make that difference. So you know why I'm doing marketing and sales and learning all these wealth strategies in real estate? Because we have to donate money to these causes.
That's right.
We have to make something happen.
You can pluck anybody off the street. Nobody's going to listen to them.
That's right.
In this country, we listen to people that have some influence.
That's right.
And so people always ask me, why have you marketed the way you have? You're a sheriff. Why? Because I want the work that I am doing to have an impact.
Yeah.
I want my voice to have an impact.
Yeah.
There was no way that my voice would have an impact if I didn't do the things that I do.
That's right.
And frankly, I wouldn't hire anybody either. Nobody would want to come work for me.
Right.
So there's a lot of reasons of why we do it, but you're exactly right. You have to put yourself in a position of influence, whether it's you making money or you being a person whose voice matters. And trust me, the balance of the things I want to weigh in on, I want to weigh in on a lot.
Right.
What I'm trying not to do is dilute my voice down to be like, this guy's just crazy. He just weighs in on everything.
I've heard marketers call it bastardizing your brand.
Yeah. And so I try to stay in my lane for the most part so that I don't dilute the power of my voice when it comes to border security or when it comes to law enforcement, the rule of law, those types of issues.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah. No.
Trust me, I want to chime in on everything.
That's right.
I got an opinion.
I get that. Yeah, no, I get that, man. Well, geez, we've spent a lot of fire on this, but let me ask you one thing before we finish off. I kind of want to touch on, one thing is obviously a big fight right now, especially with the shootings that are happening. We just talked about Uvalde. I lived in Uvalde for a couple months. I literally was there meeting with families and seeing that shooting happen, seeing what just happened up in Illinois. It's funny how this becomes the center of topic every time there's an election coming up. We could talk about that, but really it's just, again, we're talking about being a protector. At the end of the day, that's what we are. We're talking about being a protector.
Yeah.
And the fight for the Second Amendment has always been important, but it hangs by a thread now. Because I'm seeing people after something like Uvalde who fought for, and believed that in, Second Amendment rights, who are slowly but surely starting to concede a little bit, saying, okay, maybe we could do a little. And that's exactly where it starts. It doesn't start just by, here's the thing. Could you imagine them just going door to door and stripping all the guns? Like that Beto fucker, whatever his name is. His name's not even Beto. What he calls himself Beto. He wants to strip all the guns from everybody. That would never happen.
No. But it's death by 1,000 cuts.
That's exactly it. That's right.
And that's what people don't understand is they're like, oh, you're just politicizing. And I said, no. I understand that I'm not letting the camel's nose in the tent. Because the next thing you know, he's going to be standing here.
Yeah.
You can't do not give an inch on the Second Amendment. First, I'm going to talk about a couple things here on the Second Amendment.
Right, like blow it up. Let's go.
I'm like, first of all, let me just start by this. Gun control, take the gun out of it. It's about control. They're not even hiding it from you. They're telling you they want to control.
Oh, it's pretty open now, yeah.
Number two, I break it down to take the guns out of it, first of all. Okay, take the guns out of it because this is a constitutional amendment. So what I always ask people, okay, you're willing to bend on the second. How much are you willing to bend on the first? Maybe you can only go to church one day out of the month. Maybe you can only say certain things. Yeah. Maybe you can't protest or redress grievances with your government. Or maybe the police can search your house indiscriminately. All of these things matter. Maybe now you do get to testify. Certain crimes you have to testify against yourself. I look at everything as a constitutional amendment. I wouldn't let you touch the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh.
Right.
So it's not that I'm standing for the Second Amendment because of guns. I'm standing for it because it's a freaking amendment on the Constitution.
You're standing for the Constitution.
I'm standing for the Constitution.
That's right.
Now let's get real about guns. This is why you're being deceived by your government.
Yeah.
Okay. Rifle deaths. There's over 20 million AR-15s alone in this country.
Yeah.
Okay. By their rationale, there should be dead people everywhere.
Yeah.
There's over 20 million AR-15s. You know how many rifle deaths there were typically every year?
I think it's like 400?
About 400, 450.
Yeah.
There's over 20,000 people that are saved every year by having a gun. We had 450 deaths last year, and our government is laser focused on guns right now and gun control.
Yeah.
But they're not doing a single thing about over 100,000 Americans dying from fentanyl poisonings every year.
Yep.
So you tell me as a cop, which one am I supposed to focus on?
Yeah.
What is the real problem?
Yeah.
I can tell you it ain't rifle crimes.
Nope, it's not.
More people die from hands and fists and knives every year than they do rifles.
That's right.
I was with an English lady the other day, BBC Network, the British Broadcasting, and I took her to the range. And so we're going to shoot some guns.
Yeah.
And she started talking about guns, and she's like, well, these are this and that and this and that. I said, you know what? Let me show you something. I took my gun out of my holster. I set it on the tailgate of my truck. And I said, if nobody touches that gun for 100 years, it will never harm a soul. Do you know why? Because a gun can't hurt anybody. It's an inanimate object, just like a rock, a knife, a car, or any other thing.
Right.
Guns don't hurt people. People hurt people.
Right.
If you look at the Uvalde shooter, he was a troubled mental health issue.
Yeah.
The same one with this shooting yesterday in Chicago. Look at him. His hair's half and half.
Yeah.
Because in America, we've started saying, you want to be a cat, you can be a cat.
Yeah.
You want to be a girl, you want to be a girl, whatever.
Yeah, right.
We've started, when children are going through these tough times of struggling to really gain who they are in life, and it's even more difficult now with social media.
Yep.
The government is telling you and media is telling you, oh, it's okay, you can be that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're effing with people's brains.
Yeah.
And then you don't like the outcome when it backfires on you.
Right.
Like I'm surprised. The only reason we don't have more is because of already the things we have in place to protect ourselves.
Yep.
If gun control worked, Detroit would be the safest place in America. Chicago would be the safest place in America.
Louis.
New York, St. Louis, Memphis.
Yeah.
These would be the safest places in America, but they're not.
They're the
Do you know
worst.
why?
Yeah.
Because you restricted the good people from having guns.
Yeah.
The bad people don't follow the law in the first place.
Right.
Why would they follow any gun control laws you put in place?
Right.
You're an idiot if you think they're going to follow them.
Right.
Gun control's only designed to control the law-abiding citizens.
Yep.
And they want to disarm you. I will say this last thing. I'm turning it back over.
You're
to you.
good. No, go
The
for it.
Second Amendment is not about hunting. The Second Amendment is about protecting you and your family. And it is about protecting us from another government, a tyrannical government. That's exactly what the Founding Fathers put into place for.
Right.
And if you can't see the writing on the wall, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah. I mean, we have such short attention spans. If you didn't take one look at what happened in 2020 around the world and how they forced people on lockdowns across the world, and in some parts of this country, look what was happening in Canada, Australia. Look at what was happening, how they forced people in lockdowns. Forced. We're not just talking, we're talking forced lockdowns. You're telling me that kind of same thing, you can already see the verbiage of it's for your own protection, it's for your own safety and security. This is I'm hearing people literally say, yes, we have a right. You do not have a right to harm other people, so we can plunge a needle into your arm. Like, oh my gosh.
By the way, those same people now, 6 months later, not even 6 months later, are telling you their body, their choice. Okay? They're protesting in the streets for their body, their choice.
Right.
But 6 months ago, you were the worst human being in the world if you didn't get vaccinated.
And what you're saying is, what you're saying with
you
these,
got me all fired up.
I know, no good. That's what we're supposed to be. This is a bullpen, baby.
We're in the bullpen.
We get fired up in here. What you're saying, these topics, like these points, they're so simple to understand.
They are.
And really any rational person who understands the fact that if drugs are illegal, fentanyl is illegal, right?
Right.
I think in every state, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Hawaii has something different. I don't know. In every state, fentanyl is illegal. And then there's punishable by prison, like sentence, and okay, it's illegal. And yet it's still out there. And yet there's a lot of things, matter of fact, that are illegal. And yet they still happen. So, it's just a natural concurrence of, okay, so if we're taking away so that isn't just like drugs, this is something that has a use for protection and can also be used for harm, right?
Right.
But since you're trying to take that away, then we have to bring up the point of you're an idiot because these are used for protection. These are used for this cause, and you're going to try and take that away because of why?
Right.
Because of that video that gets shared hundreds of thousands of times, that tugs on the heartstrings, that makes everyone think, oh man, we got to get rid of this. And you know what? You think the easy solution is get rid of the guns. No, the hard solution and the truth is bring back the family unit.
Absolutely.
Bring back principles, right? My man. Bring back the family unit, failing of fathers and mothers in this country. I just read this thing that shocked me, and actually didn't, but it did at the same time, that the United States of America leads the world in single family homes. No more mother and father, no more units where there are principles being taught, whether it's God or Buddha or whatever it is, principles being taught in the home, principles that govern your life. Come back to what we were originally talking about, at the very beginning, is the lawlessness in this country, just fighting for freedom. Freedom, people think of freedom as, I got to do whatever I want. You're wrong, because that is chaos. That's not freedom. Anarchy and chaos is not freedom.
That's right.
It's different. Anarchy and chaos, lawlessness is not freedom. Freedom is discipline. You only have freedom over your mind and in this country when there's discipline. And you can only have discipline if you live your life by set of rules, principles. And when we bring back principles, whether they're principles from God, principles from, whatever religion you subscribe to, again, the First Amendment brings into play saying, what is the First Amendment? What are we protecting anyway? It's saying, have a religion, have principles. The Constitution of the United States is a contract, is a thing that says there must be principles that govern this country. And when we get rid of those principles and we get rid of principles in the home, what we forget is we, the people, have the power in this country, not the fucking politicians.
That's right.
They don't have the power.
Amen.
We do. They're not going to fix it. We fix it. And until we bring back that idea, and they could say that's an old idea, then we'll always have these problems, whether it's knives, whether it's guns, whether someone uses a car bomb, or maybe they use the car to just drive through a parade.
Always existed.
Always will.
We used to carry them to school. But nobody shot each other up.
Right.
You know why? Because the family unity still exists. I'm glad you brought it up because it's one of the things I talk about. I speak on the American Freedom Tour with Trump Jr. and Trump. And
love that.
And so one of the things I talk about is the deterioration of the family unity. I always say that the two strengths of America, there's three, but third one is God. Yeah. That's an integral part of America.
Right. It is.
But the two main strengths are the family unity and the rule of law. The Founding Fathers understood this.
Yes.
In the Federalist Papers, James Madison says that if men were angels, no government would be necessary. But men aren't angels.
That's right.
Women maybe, men aren't.
Yeah.
You know, men aren't angels. And so
Right.
there needs to be a government. There needs to be a rule of law. The preamble to the Constitution says, we the people, in order to form a more perfect, of the United States of America,
Right.
in order to form a more perfect
yeah.
union, establish justice.
Yes.
It was the very first thing they said
Uh-huh.
in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Because they understood the importance of the rule of law.
Yeah.
And they got that from how important religion was. Then they didn't want a single religion, but they wanted the same idea of like the 10 Commandments, rules of law. And they realized that when people have a moral compass, a set of values to live by, they are a much more pleasant society.
Yes.
And the Constitution, and I always say this because I may have said something different because I don't want anybody to think different. The Constitution does not give us our rights.
Amen.
The Constitution protects
Amen.
our God-given rights.
That's what I'm talking
and
about.
that's what people need to understand.
Yes.
But the family unity, you're right.
That's
if
it.
you fix the family unity, you fix these. I guarantee if I crack into the kid who just shot up there at Chicago
about to say.
or the one that was down in Uvalde, Texas, I guarantee you the family's a mess. And I'm not saying that to knock the family.
It is actually.
I'm saying that there probably wasn't a father in the home. And that's no knock on any single mothers because it's not against single mothers. That's a knock on any of you dads out there who aren't stepping up
It's
and
a
doing
failure
your
fault,
you
yeah.
know, and being a responsible father. And that's what this country needs, and that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do some youth programs in my county to offset that.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time, man. That's who we deal with.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this country.
Yeah, I agree. I 1000% agree. And the truth is, you go look at any shooting. You literally, you go look at any shooting that has happened, you'll most likely find that there was a fucked up family unit.
Oh, for sure.
You know, whether it's single family father or single family mother, either way. And that is at the core of it. Now, just because you have a good family, just because you have good parents, the children are still going to make decisions. So it's not 100%. You can never, paint a broad brush because people are going to make mistakes.
But they're very rarely out shooting people.
Exactly. Because there's still guiding principles there.
They might get lost in drugs and alcohol
Yes.
and that type of thing and be destructive to their own lives. And maybe some people just in their close circles. But I mean, like abuse, physical abuse typically is a learned thing.
Yeah.
Emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Like I see it all the time. And if you were to track it back up the pedigree, you'll find out their father abused them
Yeah.
or their mother abused them.
That's right.
Same with sexual abuse.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
and then it gets, that's why generation after generation of the family deteriorating. And look, our own government's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Now we have one of our Supreme Court justices that was just ordained, put in there saying, I can't define the difference between a man and a woman. Make no mistake about that. That was by design.
Yeah.
That's an affront to God, and that is an attack on the family.
Yes.
And basically, they're saying they're trying to take away your identity and the identity of a family, of a father and a mother and children, and that type of thing. And then, whether it's two fathers, two mothers, like I don't really care about that stuff, but I just believe that you need to have a family unity. I think, and I'm a traditional family guy. I think that's the best place to raise children.
Well, notice in the Constitution, it doesn't say one specific religion. That's kind of the whole point of this country, and the whole point of this Constitution is that whatever your religion is, be it.
That's it.
That's it. Whatever your beliefs are, be it, right? And so that's the thing. We're not just out here saying, it has to be Christianity or it has to be Muslim, or there's no forced religion on anyone in this country. But what it does say is that you should have guiding principles for your life.
right.
And that in this country, we have guiding principles, and it's stated in the Constitution. And those guiding principles are what are going to lead us to prosperity.
That's right.
And the second we tear those down, and I love what you said, even if they get rid of the Constitution somehow one day, doesn't matter. Because these are God-given rights.
That's right.
It's not, you're
not taking those away.
You don't bless us as a politician with these rights. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Exactly.
Right? These are not your
How
rules.
egotistical.
Exactly.
That they think that they can grant me my rights. That's what they're like, we're going to let you celebrate Thanksgiving.
It's like, who do you think
I put a picture up. I came into work one day. It was 2020, and they're like, I don't think you guys can celebrate Thanksgiving
or Christmas.
So I grabbed it. I have this Constitution framed on the wall, and I walk into my office one day, and I was like, I grabbed my camera guy. And I go, come with me.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the Constitution off the wall. He's like, where are we going? I go, just follow me.
Yeah.
So we jump in my truck. We drive over to this desolate road. I grab my rifle out and I got my Constitution under my arm. It's going to be my next NFT, but, and I got the rifle in one hand and I'm walking across the road looking at the camera and it says, where am I going for Thanksgiving? Wherever the hell I want.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, folks, stop letting them get you all worked up about things that COVID and all this stuff. Thomas Paine, one of the founding fathers who wrote the book Common Sense, he also wrote the series of pamphlets called The American Crisis. But he wrote that the greatest tyrannies are always perpetrated in the name of the noblest causes.
Amen.
The bad stuff they're doing to you, they're not going to package it in bad packaging.
Yeah. We want to control you.
They're going to package it. It's going to look real nice.
Yeah, it's going to look awesome.
The devil doesn't show up in horns and big fangs.
Amen,
He shows up in a 3-piece suit looking pretty slick.
Yeah.
And that's why so many, I mean, we know from religion, you know, that even the most righteous will be beguiled in the last days. People that will, that's why we're seeing Republicans slacking on the Second Amendment. Oh, maybe I don't need 30 minutes. Stop.
Shut up. Yeah.
Don't. Why does your definition, there's a scripture in 2 Corinthians, it says, why does your definition of your idea of liberty dictate what mine is?
Yes.
And I know that's not what the scripture says, but it's to that effect.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I'm not letting somebody else's, what they want from liberty dictate what my liberty is.
Yeah.
And don't let the government dictate your liberty either. Like that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, no tyrant in the history of any country around the world ever stood up and says, I'm here to take over your lives. I'm here to, be your dictator. No, they stood up and says, for your own safety and protection, I am here to save you.
I'm going to save you.
That's right.
I set the fire, but I'm going to save you.
That's right. And I'm the one who will be your savior. They always rise to power in the name of safety and security.
That's it.
That's all it is.
Benjamin Franklin said it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, the writings, but Americans are so clouded.
Yeah.
They don't know what the truth is.
Yeah.
It's hard to find, frankly. The truth's hard to find. And so really it's about getting back to the basics.
Yep.
You said it earlier. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I'm not a smart guy. So that's why I feel like it's more simple, more clear for me because I don't get lost in my own head.
Yeah.
I'm not overeducated in some college.
Yeah.
I see things for what they are.
Right.
And I'm not telling you things that are hypothetical. I'm talking about the border because I see it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Second Amendment because I've learned through history. I haven't forgotten those things and the countries that have fallen or the millions of people who have lost their lives because of things like removing the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
I mean, there is just so much, but it's just really about getting back to the basics of family, rule of law, God in our lives. Goodness is what the only way you dispel darkness is with light.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you've got to bring the light back into it.
Amen. Love it, brother. Love it. Dude, we spit some fire on this podcast, man.
We got to have to come back and do it again.
We're going to have to do this more. Yeah. I appreciate
I'll fly
you.
up here for free. So.
Love it, man. Well, listen, if there's one thing you want to leave our audience with, what would it be?
Well, first of all, if you want to get my book, it's American Sheriff. I'm working on another book right now, which I hope to have. I'm supposed to have to my editor by the 29th of July. So I got to get crack-a-lacking on it.
Yeah.
And then my wife's book is The Sheriff's Wife. You can get both those on Amazon, but if you buy them at thesheriffswife.com or americansheriff.com, we'll get you a signed copy out of the book.
Cool.
Also, my son's company he's owned from is Fear Not Do Right.
Yes, that's
That's
right.
one of the things that we believe in is you fear not, do right. My message to everybody is we still live in the greatest country in the world. Freedom is still abounds here, and we cannot afford to lose it here. There is nowhere else to go. This is it.
Yeah.
That's why evil's fighting so hard against it.
Yeah.
And I remember I did a podcast with Oliver North, and he says, what do you want your grandkids to say about you? And I said, I want my grandkids to say that I was a patriot who fought valiantly for God, family, and freedom. And that's it. And for my country.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And we believe in my family about pushing yourself to be the best that you can be. Challenge yourself every day. Don't be afraid. Push into the fear. It's okay to be afraid when if it makes you scared, if it makes your stomach tingle, it's probably worth doing.
Yeah.
Mark Twain says, it's not the absence of fear. It's the resistance of it and the mastery of fear that really matters.
Yeah.
Not the absence of it.
Yeah.
And so you just got to push yourselves to be the best. And I'm going to give you 3 things. Number 1, be authentic. The world is hungry for authentic people.
Yeah.
People who are just not afraid to be themselves.
Yeah.
And to stand up for what you believe, no matter how hot the kitchen gets.
That's right.
And I can tell you can get pretty darn hot.
Yeah.
And number 2 is don't be afraid to do the uncomfortable work. We're in a time now where you're going to have to do some uncomfortable things. And it's not, you're going to lose family, you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose your business, you're going to lose money, you're going to lose a lot of things. But what is the price of freedom for you?
Right.
And then the third thing is surrender the outcome. You've got to surrender the outcome. Most depression, anxiety, and unhappiness in this life comes because we're trying to control an outcome that we have no control over. You can't control what happens in life. You can control your attitude and your work output. And that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is up, whether you believe in the universe or God or whatever you believe in, it's outside of your control. And the less you push back against it and the more you lean into it, the better off you'll be and the happier you'll be in life. I'm not going to tell you that things will work out the way you want them to, but you'll be happy.
Amen.
And then bring God back into it.
Please.
Alexis de Tocqueville, who was one of the back in the 1800s, the late 1700s, France wanted to understand what the greatness of America was. So in the early 1800s, they sent Alexis de Tocqueville to America to understand the penal system and understand what made America great. And in a book that he wrote called Democracy in America, there's 4 volumes of it. But in there he writes, I search for the greatness of America in her commodious harbors and in her ample rivers, and she was not there, and it was not there. I searched for her in her fertile fields and in her endless prairies, and it was not there. I searched for it in her rich mines and in her vast world commerce, and it was not there. Not until I went into the churches of America and heard their pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the greatness and genius and power of America. And I understood that America was great because she was good. And when America ceased to be good, she would cease to be great. And that's the truth of it. We've got to get back to the goodness that was America and what this country was built on and what made it great, and we will be great again.
Amen. That's the way to finish it off right there. Love it, brother. Dude, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you to come on this podcast, share your message with our audience, and just take the time. It was a blessing for me to listen to you. You know, I'm grateful that there are men like you who are willing to stand up and fight, that have taken the time to study. You know, you're a studied man. I can hear it, you know. You understand history. You understand, you know, what's happening in this country. And I'm grateful for you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming
on. And thank you for being a powerful voice as well.
I appreciate you, man.
God bless you, brother.